Hey everybody, it's Jillian. So I have narrowed everything down to intake slash environment because you're always going to be in some kind of environment. It doesn't matter. You're not going to know how aggressive the environment is because there's going to be so much going on. All environments are relative to the amount of people, activity, and then what is going on in the news, because the news will tell you exactly how aggressive the environment is, because they'll say there's a new virus in the environment, or there is a lot of activity, like, activism in this area. So the electricity is going to be more palpable in some areas more than others. Now, if you go to the country, yeah, obviously the country is going to be less environmental, piezoelectricity, though you don't know what transducers are in the environment. You could have a huge transformer somewhere hiding behind a sign that you don't know, but you're in the country, so you don't know, how much electricity that's even giving off. So it doesn't even matter really when you look at the environment when it comes to J-Juice, because you will be in so many different environments, it's going to be like whatever. And so the whole main objective is to adapt to all different types of environments on this earth, okay? And so I finally narrowed it down that the trinity of the Jiggly Juice intake and the food, all food, is, yes, your intake is going to be the top of the pyramid, but it's whether or not you're obese and skinny, because your intake is going to be relative to your body size. Forget all the predispositions. Everyone who is skinny or obese has predispositions, and that's based upon where you are on the evolutionary scale. And you could be malnourished and be devolving, okay, when you're obese, and you could be malnourished and devolving when you're skinny. It doesn't matter. If you are obese or skinny and you have predispositions, you're dealing with diagnosable conditions, you have issues, then you're going to take in the food supply and J-Juice relative to your body size. Okay, relative to your body size. And again, cancer, disease, and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders are going to be not even an issue, because that's going to be a given. You could have one disease and not another, but they're all kind of relatively the same. They're all related to each other on some level, with a few components that make them a little bit different, which gives them the different names. And so when it comes down to it, it's about being proportional, and it's about being adaptable. About being proportional and adaptable, and understanding that if you don't have enough substance behind you, then the energy behind the J-Juice can be very, very excessive. And if you don't have enough substance, then yeah, you're going to be in a curative state. Okay, so people who are very, very skinny need to do a little bit less J-Juice and more of the food supply, and rest, and deal with your pain and your symptoms. Okay, we already know that pain and symptoms are evolution. Now, how you're going to measure that based upon your lifestyle and your career and any other priorities, you will figure that out. But in the back of your mind, the sole foundation is to deal with your symptoms, not to wash them away, not to use J-Juice to wash them away, not to use antibiotics to wash them away, not to use any other curative substances to wash away your symptoms, but you deal with them on some level. But you deal with them relative to your lifestyle, and that will be different for everybody. The healing portions are not that different. They're all the same. It's how you apply the J-Juice and what you're willing to deal with is different. Okay. And so, but you can't think that you're going to be symptom free in an ever changing environment with so many different variants of viruses that you have no idea what where they are, where they came from, or anything. But if you're obese, then you can afford to do more J-Juice, still eat a balanced diet, because you still need the food supply. Because what people are doing out there is they are doing all these diets where they're starving themselves of carbs and fats and sugars, and they're only eating a protein and I don't know what else, salads or veggies. And yes, they're losing weight, but they're also losing nutrients. They're already at a malnourished state, because that's why they have to lose weight. That's why, because they have diagnosable conditions. But what will happen is your body is going to fall apart. You're going to lose hair. You're going to lose collagen. You're going to lose the life force when you starve yourself, and you're not actually applying the right chemistry to then proportionalize your body size based upon how you need to adapt to this environment. And so a person who is obese can afford to do more J-Juice than a relatively skinny person. They can still eat smaller portions of food and still balance with the J-Juice and watch their situation become more proportionalized, not so extreme on either end. And so what it comes down to is obese, skinny, and then intake. And then you're always going to have an environment that's full of different viruses. Okay, so that's what it comes down to, because remember, predispositions are non-discriminatory. Predispositions will happen to an obese person, and it will happen to a skinny person. You could have a diabetic skinny person and a diabetic obese person. So now it's all about how do you use the jelly juice and the food supply in your environment, and how do you balance all of them out so you can get the best benefit and you're not in a curative state. And so we finally figured out the last couple weeks, because I've been dealing with COVID, but I've been balancing out my chemistry, biochemistry. I've been using the food supply to my advantage, and it's not about the therapeutics. Forget the therapeutics. The therapeutics have nothing to do with all of this. The therapeutics are only an intermediary for those that can handle the piezoelectric effects of a very aggressive programming. So the therapeutics are not dangerous, they're not poisonous, there's nothing wrong with them. What's wrong is people that are malnourished, that don't know how to utilize the J juice as well as the food supply to their benefit. And so since people don't know how to utilize the J juice and the food supply to their benefit, they're turning to all the other intermediaries out there that force them to use more intermediaries, force them to be more dependent on the system. And so now I get it. Now I understand why the Facebook and YouTube are like, okay, when people are already at a deficit, you can't tell them not to, and they don't know how to deal with the food supply and deal with, the thermodynamics. You can't tell them not to, or try to dissuade them from therapeutics, because therapeutics are there for people who don't know any better. So if you know better, and it doesn't matter if you take a therapeutic, no big deal. Who cares? You'll deal with your predispositions regardless, because you'll do J juice. If you're obese, you'll do J juice enough to make sure you get everything going. You'll feel your symptoms. You'll feel the evolution, and then you will deal with that accordingly. You will handle it based upon what you know about how to deal with pain and symptoms, not to mitigate them, but to deal with them head on. And if you take a therapeutic and you're skinny, you still have to bring on the food supply. You still have to bring a little bit of J juice to kind of help heal and seal. And you know how to deal with pain, because that's what you know, that's what needs to happen, because you're evolving. And so the therapeutics are not even a factor. It's a fact that, do you understand that you have to deal with pain? And so I totally get it now. Okay. And so that is the main objective of jelly juice, is to understand that the jelly juice is helping you resupply your electrolyte reserves. Because I can taste the phlegm, the salt in my phlegm. That's from the electrolytes. Okay. And so there's a reason why you have electrolyte reserves. So that way you have the action potential to get out any excess mucus and to deal with their cell regeneration when you bring in the intelligence, the food supply, bioengineered food, processed food, all the data that's out there in the food supply. And if somebody is doing a bunch of J juice and organic food, they're not going to survive, because first of all, they're very freaking skinny. I've seen it on my J juice crowd. They're so skinny. They're totally mitigating against major foods because they're afraid of the food supply. They're not going to survive this environment. I already see it and I already know it, and I've been getting on them, but I'm telling you, I'm hitting a wall, because people want to be out there and produce, and they want to be out there making a bunch of money. And so you have to choose, you can't eat the freaking dollar, and you can't eat that Birkin bag, and you can't eat that trip to wherever. You can only survive on food. You can't survive on taking more from you than you are adding to you. Okay, so it is what it is, but J juice is not antibiotic, so that's why it's not illegal. It is electricity, yes. It is a lot of electricity. It is a probiotic, yes, but the main ingredient is the salt, which is energetic, and you have to now learn how to use energy to your advantage. And if you are skinny, it will work against you if you're not packing on the freaking pounds. I'm telling you, the gods were very proportional to the environment. That's why there's a lot of substance to them. That's why they were more Rubenesque than not. The whole skinny culture, the emaciated culture, was for a more calmer environment, for people on a death trajectory, because, hey, when it's all about procreation, you want to tap into somebody's hormones, you have to look a specific way. And that's where all the models and Victoria's Secret and all the porn industry came from, is basically tapping into procreation, because everyone expected to die at some point. And that's how you keep the species alive, is you keep tapping into their reproductive hormones. But what if you didn't have to go and reproduce all the time? What if you actually stayed on this earth long enough and contributed in a balanced way? You don't have to keep tapping into your reproductive hormones and trying to give off some kind of pheromone to the opposite sex or the same sex so you can procreate. All right, bye.